Welcome back to the channel and getting right into it, starting a vanity for a friend or client, however you want to look at it. And this is just me breaking down the sheet goods that I have using 3/4 plywood for the structure and the large drawers. Also got a new toy for this one, and that's me setting up the Makita 40 volt track saw. And I did get 2 tracks with it. Saved up for that one. Actually sold a couple of tools I wasn't using to pick this one up. And I gotta say, I adore this freaking tool. It's amazing. I got to break down, rip all these large sheet goods. There's some MDF, some 1/2 inch material for the drawers, different stuff like that. And also used this recently to do some floating shelves. I had some of that MDF left over. So yeah, I don't have a table saw or anything like that, so using this track saw has been super easy, and it makes really nice clean cuts. Um, yeah, not a ton of tear out. Also, side note, if you're just getting a track saw and you don't know, if you look on the screen, that little bit of black right there, it's actually part of um, the rubber guide or the piece. You cut that when you do your very first cut, and that leaves you with kind of a zero clearance um, line for you to follow. That little rundown. So I was like, oh no, I thought I ruined it at first, because you don't hear a lot of folks talking about that. But just FYI, you are going to cut that rubber piece initially. And maybe I'm just a goober and didn't know that, and everybody else does. I'll share it anyway. So yeah, just ripping down sheet goods here. That's my son, and just getting everything to the depths, or yeah, if you want to look at it width, but it's really the depth of the cabinet, and getting all those set. Checking the cuts, check them against each other. And that's kind of like how I like to break my material down. Get everything to the depth first, and then I will start to cut the other material from that. Kids were in the video a lot in the beginning. This video did take place over a little bit of time. I was still working kind of full time at this point, so I believe this is a Saturday that I started to do this one. And it's a pretty large vanity. In the beginning of the video, I kind of tried to quickly show my 3D mock-up of it on Shaper 3D. If you want to do 3D modeling on an iPad, I have found it to be so far the best. Not sponsored or anything, just my personal opinion. I really like it. It's super easy to use on an iPad. If you're going to do it on a computer, I still like SketchUp a lot. I've done the free trial a couple of times to get the downloadable version. I kind of like that, hard downloaded version for a PC rather than the cloud version. But even the cloud version, I still like it if you're doing it on a computer. So continuing to break down materials, and just gonna get all the sides. So like I mentioned, I don't have a table saw or anything. I did cheat a little bit on this one. I was going to use my router and do all the dados for my portions with that, but I asked the brother-in-law, who does have a really nice shop setup, if I could, come over and use some of his machines. And really, I just roped him into doing the dados for me to get those nice and tight and clean. Ripping these down, which will end up being for my toe kick on my cabinets. I like to do separate toe kicks and just build the box. You can level out the toe kick. As long as you made it properly, it'll be leveled when you set your carcass on that. So that's personally the way I like it. This vanity is being sandwiched between 2 kind of small pony walls, so you'll never, I'm not worried about the edges or the sides looking separate. If you were going to have this in an open kind of where you will be able to see the sides layout and you're going to paint it and have to do stuff, then I would integrate that toe kick for sure, or do it separate, and then you'll have to do kind of like a 1/4 inch finish panel on the edge. This is me just kind of laying it out on the floor. I do not have a workbench. Even when I did have a workbench in my old house, it would not have been large enough for this cabinet. So that's me just kind of laying out and thinking about my plan for glue up. I believe I noticed also I did forget to do a dado on, I think, the bottom edge of those side panels. I think it was the bottom edge. So that was me. I'm using kind of a test piece because I want to see my thickness, and I'm using just my little router and getting it's either the back edge or the bottom edge. Forgive me, I don't remember. I want to say it's the bottom. Just getting those bottoms routed because the panels are going to sit inside of those. I just like to increase that glue surface. This is all going to get glued and screwed anyway. You'll see my box that I've shoved and stuffed a bunch of other boxes into, using that as my cutting surface. Our Lowe's and Home Depot here locally has not had any of that nice thick foam. I've used that on previous projects. They haven't had any in stock, and I wasn't going to order it because I'm lazy. So one day I'll be able to get some more foam and be able to cut on that rather than a box. So on some of these, I also wanted to Craig the holes just to get some extra security, and I don't own or possess a large number of clamps, so I am going to screw these. I'm going to glue them, then I'm going to brad them to hold them just in the right place, and then I'm going to come back with my Craig screws and screw it all together, and the screws will act as the clamp to keep it all together. My garage floor is pretty flush, so the bottom of the way it's standing right now is actually the front to keep the front face plane on the level, or plumb, however you want to look at it. And then there is a reason for the shelves having that little poke out. Just didn't want to cut it. On this one, I did think a little bit on how to execute this with those centerpieces, and finally just decided I was going to start from the middle and work my way out. I did check for 90s on these. Obviously it's going to move and rack as you add more pieces, but once it's in the final dimension, I do double check everything and just try to make sure it's square. That's our neighbor. That's our neighbor's son, Sam, coming over asking me if I'm fixing it, and told him I was. A lot of activity. I want to say this was, so the first breakdown was on a Saturday. Then obviously we had soccer tournaments and all kinds of stuff going on, and I think this is the next weekend where I finally got to dado those pieces and then come back and start to throw the carcass together. Another one of my personal opinions, if you don't own a Craig jig or some type of pocket screw tool, I would highly recommend getting one. It's just been such a awesome tool that I've utilized so much throughout the years, and I haven't done this as a profession for many years, but I did like to DIY and do some stuff around the house. But I absolutely freaking think it's one of the best, and I like Craig as the brand anyway. They make really good stuff. There's a bunch out there nowadays though. There's not one full panel going on the back of these because the center and the two bottom sides are going to be drawers, and only the cabinet portion, which is the large openings towards the top, are going to have 1/4-inch plywood on the back. So I'm putting in these cross braces for the carcass. I didn't want to waste a bunch of material and put a hole back on this thing when it's really not necessary. think that was where I saw when I 3D CAD'd this up. I had obviously the design laid out and everything, but I ended up changing uh, when we were doing the dados. I ended up changing something, so I didn't transfer that over to my 3D CAD piece, and that ended up causing me a little bit of headache as I was moving through the project because there were all these little pieces. I think it was the dado that I added to kind of sink the cabinet in, um, and then I did not dado the bottom long panel, the centerpiece where those, and I was supposed to. I think that was what a big part of it was. I was supposed to dado that bottom panel so that my center to vertical walls were inset a 1/4 inch. So it ended up being a 1/4 inch too high, which ended up I just dadoed the top brace instead. Um, so yeah, just when you are going to make changes, or you know, I like to wing it a lot of times. Uh, just know that it could cause you a little bit of headache as you move forward through the project. I do not have a lot of milling machinery, or I don't have a jointer. My brother-in-law, he does in his shop, but I didn't want to keep, going over there for building it. So I did buy some 4S lumber, sanded it nice, and I just like to do the face frame right on the cabinet itself. Um, I've always found that it was easier and I made less mistakes trying to do it all off of the drawing because it's not always perfect and your cuts aren't always going to be 1,000% precise. So I like to lay it out, get my pieces figured out, clean everything up, and again, my floor is it's coated, and I try to keep my garage floor pretty clean, and so it is flat, and so that's where I build a lot of the pieces that I build that need to be flat and straight. Face frame is going to be glue and pocket holes again. Um, I have the base Craig jig, and then I actually got this one for a Christmas present. I wanted the I think it's the 590 is what it's called. Um, Anyways, it's just if you're going to be doing a lot of Craig holes or pocket holes, it's awesome to just be able to clamp go, clamp go. It really is great. As a suggestion, if I'll try and link to his page, but I'm sure everybody or a ton of people are familiar with Bourbon Moth Woodworking. He has an awesome tutorial on building carcasses and cabinets and face frames. There was a little series that he did on that, and man, he just has a great woodworking style. I really like it. Not overcomplicated. Really easy to follow. I think he's self-taught, I believe he said in one of his videos as well. Um, a lot of my woodworking stuff has just been from videos and doing it and making mistakes over the years, and I've just always loved woodworking. So I want to say he also likes to lay out his face frames directly on the cabinet. I know the separate toe kick, that was something that I saw in a video of his a long time ago that I had started doing, and it just turned out to be far easier, especially when you're not worried about that side profile. With the face frame, there is a little lip on the um, indentation, obviously. So this is me just putting some spacers in there. I am using undermount drawer slides. These are off of Amazon. If I can find the link, I'll put them in there. They're not Blum, fancy undermount drawer slides. Those were actually out and back ordered for 6 months when I was looking at them. These folks, their project was coming up they were remodeling their bathroom, and they were going to need this in a couple weeks. So that's why I ended up taking my time as well, as I wasn't on a time crunch to build out this cabinet. This was also my first or second time using undermount drawer slides. Oh, I apologize. No, I bought these from the distributor that I bought the plywood from. There's a plywood Interstate Plywood in Memphis, and I bought these undermounts from them directly. And it was a good product. I've never used blow mount stuff. I would have liked to, um, but these work great. They were really nice. I think I had one of the clips go bad. I did buy, a couple extra slides in case I messed something up. But undermounts worked out great. I guess my point is, it doesn't have to be the fancy, expensive undermounts, even though everybody likes them. Just using spacers on the bottom, since these will have 4 or 5 screws going into those side spacers that I did glue and brad nail in there. So nothing is really needed underneath there. They sit on the face frame in the front. Put an 1/8 inch space gap in the front just to keep them set back a little bit, and then it's plenty strong. So I just used some scrap pieces as spacers to get them kind of level and flush through the carcass itself, so they weren't sliding open or not closing nicely. And yes, that is a brand new, it's an older DeWalt planer that is still in the box. I need to open that. One of my future plans is to actually build a cart for that, so I can take it out and actually use it. I'm just double checking on my spacing there for my drawers. I like to measure right. That might be another tip I picked up off of Bourbon Moth for the undermount style drawers, was measure, put your drawer slides in, get everything set, and then measure the actual distance between your drawer slides, and then build your drawer, rather than trying to go directly off a drawing. That's my daughter. Can't tell you how much I love this pocket hole, this Craig pocket hole right here. Made everything so fast, so nice. And then it was somewhat rinse and repeat right there. I just cut that part of the video out, and they're needing. And that's my little video for. So got those all in. That part that went through real fast was just cutting out the notches you need in the back of the drawers. Now starting to do the what kind of, maybe shaker style is the name for the drawer fronts and the door fronts. So starting the cutting for that, all the material has been cut to dimension as far as width and height, or length and height. And this is me just getting the portions cut for the tongues. and the grooves I'll cut here in a little bit. I really need to build a bench. This is a really nice tight fit. I did buy and spend some money on a good bit for the shaker doors. Um, Difference for this one was it was the tongue bit. The groove bit, they didn't actually have that. And I couldn't wait. I think this was getting closer to when this needed to be finished, and I didn't want to order it online or risk the chance that it was different and not the right one, that because they didn't have a set and they only had that. So I ended up using that bit, adjusting some of the shims to get my groove portion of this, and it all worked out. That's the upper center cabinet. Didn't think I need to show a video of that. It's constructed the same way as the carcass right here. That's it actually going in. Countertops got put in. I put in the upper. Plumbers and stuff had to come do some portions. I had to do about 2 trips back to finish it all up, and that's the finished product, and they were happy.